Whatever David Mannheim is up to these days, he can't seem to shake Instagram from the back of his mind. He says he feels addicted.
I find social media to be, I don't know if it's physically addictive, but it's certainly got me by the hooks, you know what I mean? Like, I check Instagram like I used to smoke cigarettes.
Addiction is everywhere in the news right now, from social media apps that keep you scrolling to a more serious fentanyl crisis. Mannheim is all too familiar with compulsive, self-soothing and ultimately self-defeating behavior. He's struggled with addictions to heroin, methadone, benzos and prescription opioids for more than 2 decades.
Hello, and welcome to Dopey, the podcast on drugs, addiction, and dumb shit, and my name is Dave.
These days, he's sober. He finds community and purpose by hosting his popular recovery show. It features all kinds of people, folks who struggled with drug addiction as teens, successful musicians, a cop, a former Disney child star. Even the veteran actress Jamie Lee Curtis has appeared on the show. Most of the guests explain how they started using drugs, and then how they lost control.
It took about 18 months before I gave everything away.
Damon West, a former University of North Texas quarterback and stockbroker, told Mannheim how he let his addiction completely take over his life.
My job, my home, my car, my savings account, my family, my tethering to God. In 18 months, I go from working on Wall Street to living on the streets.
His crystal meth habit drove him to orchestrate elaborate burglaries in Dallas for money. West used drugs early in his career because he couldn't bear the idea of not being an athlete. He had to quit football after a major injury.
I wrapped my identity up into being a football player, Dave. And you can't do that, right? Because anything you attach to can be taken away from you at any time. I gave up all my goals to meet my behaviors. I could not live life on life's terms. The hallmark of being an addict, right?
He ended up with a life sentence in prison, but he beat his addiction, got out on parole, and became a motivational speaker. Dave Mannheim says we should be wary of stereotyping addicts, though. His original co-host on Dopey, for example, seemed to have kicked his drug habit, but he died of an overdose a couple of years after they created the podcast.
Everybody's low point is totally subjective, which I think is why it's so hard to treat addiction.
My becoming addicted had a lot to do with the kind of person I wanted to end up being at first. I didn't want to go over the top.
Owen Flanagan is a philosopher of mind and the author of What Is It Like to Be an Addict? He argues that it's only people struggling with addiction themselves who can really lay out everything that made them become addicts. Flanagan was an alcoholic. He says he drank to ease his anxiety, and growing up, casual and routine alcohol use was an integral part of his family's rituals.
I wanted to walk right up to that bar where I could stay and be, charming, storytelling Irishman, growing older and older, being around other good souls, or having cocktail hour for myself.
But Flanagan's habit then grew into a compulsion.
It would come up sometimes in relationships, romantic relationships, for example. Things would be going well, and then there might be a tension call to my drinking, at which point I'd exit the relationship and keep drinking.
It even led to divorce. He stopped talking to friends. After a few successful efforts and relapses, he only changed his lifestyle when the constant drinking made him feel so sick he thought he would die.
One of the plausible things that differentiates the addict from a person who's just physically dependent is that the addict starts to use in situations where she promised herself not to use. She will choose the drug of choice over other things that are important to her, like work and family.
The stories on the Dopey podcast show that addicts end up hooked for all kinds of reasons, in all kinds of ways, and with a constantly changing kaleidoscope of factors at play in their lives. Flanagan also saw this as he attended Alcoholics Anonymous meetings.
There's just not one thing addiction is. I mean, sure, at a certain level of abstraction, there's one thing it is. It means a pattern of use of a drug that gets in the way of your own flourishing. But how and why people get in there is very complicated. And if we're ever going to get out of it, we have to engage in our recovery.
The structure and community of Alcoholics Anonymous helped both Owen Flanagan and Dopey's Dave Mannheim get and stay sober. But they both swear that AA is not necessarily the only path for everyone.
hobbies, relationships, family, anything that you can throw yourself into to supplant the obsession with the thing.
For now, he says, his current obsession with Instagram hasn't yet matched his addiction to drugs.
I've never felt any kind of social media withdrawal.
I got a swimming pool full of liquor and they dive in it.
For Philosophy Talk, I'm Sarah Lai Sterland.
Frank,
Headshot.
Frank.
Sit down.